In nature, many animals and organisms are forced to, in some way, cohabitate, or otherwise benefit from another creature. These relationships that form in nature can take many forms. Mutualism, that being a relationship in which both members benefit. Commensalism, a relationship in which one creature benefits and another is neither helped nor harmed. And the relationship in which one creature benefits at the expense or harm of another. These are some of the building blocks of the world we live in, and I can say with a high degree of certainty that some of the people and topics we will be covering today have a very parasitic relationship with the Five Nights at Freddy's community and the internet as a whole, clawing its way into the underbelly and infecting it from the inside. Okay, I'm being a tad over the top, as usual, and I want to make it perfectly clear that Five Nights at Freddy's has a perfectly normal and fun fan base for the most part, so I don't want those I speak on today to reflect poorly on the Fnaf community. On top of this, keep in mind the first couple topics will be silly little goofy wacky things to poke fun at, but as we go deeper into the rabbit hole, we'll be covering some more intense topics. So, some viewer discretion is advised. Also, look at this graph. There's a problem with that graph, and I think you know how to fix it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please, please. With all that being said, I want to take our second look into the eldritch abyss that is the Five Nights at Freddy's Parasites. Let's hope we don't go mad. Let's start off with a lighter topic. In my last video, I talked about Undertale an infamous song made by this person, and has remained kind of infamous in its respective community. As some viewers are possibly aware, this creator is responsible for a total deluge of cringe nerdcore music on the internet, one of which is their infamous FNAF 3 song. But for those who aren't aware, has managed to shoot out 8 of these terrible songs. This is impressive and all, but as I was doing the research portion for this video, I realized that this guy is nothing because of another little channel called Studio is nothing more than a giant mound of flesh and machine combined in an unholy matrimony that does nothing but dispense Five Nights at Freddy's parody animations. At least that's my theory, cause this fella has 108 FNAF animations. All of these animations seem to be a part of a strange content farm in which 3Lame Studios attempts to jump on the views train that is Five Nights at Freddy's. I know I'm one to talk. And I can say with a high degree of certainty that this is the most bizarre series of animations I've ever seen. It's a powerful mix of bad animation and autism, combining to make the grueling hours upon hours of content in 3Lame's back catalog. Now, several of these videos are attempts at fan music, emphasis on the word attempts. When I was a kid, I had a strange bed. It was sort of a strange combination, a marriage, you could say, between an entertainment system and a bed. One day in my early youth, I made the mistake of climbing this amalgamation of human activities to reach the mattress stowed at its peak. I stretched my hand between the 2 planks of wood at the structure's apex before fatefully slipping. Instead of hitting the ground like any falling object should, the torn flesh of my right arm was all that held the entire weight of my young body off the ground. I hung there for several excruciating moments screaming for my parents before I was able to get down. I would happily spend eternity in this state if it meant I never had to hear 3Lame's music ever again. But regardless of all of this, the idiotic escapades of dumb things on the internet will ultimately be nothing more than something to point and laugh at. If you want more information on this sort of thing, give Yaz video a watch. Now, with all that being said, I think it's time we explore a little bit further and take a meaningful look at the Candyland crypto scam. We've already spoken an awful lot about fan animations in this video, and done a hefty amount of, shitting all over them. But I want to make it very clear that for every cringe 3 lame song, there are a dozen or so incredible, well-made fan animations done by talented artists and creators, some of which become wildly popular, and usually for good reason. A proprietor of this branch of fan content was a channel named Golden Lane Studio, a channel that has been creating Fnaf fan animations for 8 years straight. But unlike our previous Parasites, most of these animations are harmless, fun, well-made works. But in more recent months, they've seemingly switched gears from Fnaf fan animations to original Fnaf fan animations. What I actually mean by this is there was an obvious shift in their content. The better half of a decade was taken up with source filmmaker animations featuring Scott Cawthon's titular animatronic characters. But this consistency was shattered on October 21st, 2022, with the upload of a noticeably higher quality animated short that lacked any recognizable characters, and introduced a new, more original IP with the debut of Candy the Kangaroo in First Corruption, which actually has an extremely positive reception, and for good reason too. On a base level, this is a really cool technical feat, showing the progress independent animators have made on YouTube, but the reasons behind this creation were a bit more, well, stupid than we'd initially thought.
You're actually this stupid.
But before I disappoint you all with the truth, I need to introduce you to their most popular character, and a vital piece to this tale, Susie's Snack Time. You see, the Candy Lane series was uploaded in 4 separate parts, to help us get familiar with the 4 separate animatronics that made up its wacky cast, the most popular of which is episode 2, She's Not So Innocent. This title, in conjunction with the anime-adjacent design of Susie's Snack Time, is clickbaity in a way, and appears to have led to the most exposure this Candy Lane project has ever received. One thing astute viewers may notice is, at the end of the video, there is an invitation to join a Discord server. I wonder what this is all about.
You don't want to be like this.
Absolutely.
This is disgusting.
Nothing about this
This is awful and everything.
Not one thing.
That's right, do even an ounce of digging on this project, and you will be inundated with these stupid looking looping animations that you can purchase with Ethereum or whatever. Now, I'm not even gonna pretend I know anything about crypto or non-fungible tokens, but all I know is that if you like it, you're a nerd! In all seriousness, there have been many documented cases that showcase the shady behaviors and goings-on associated with NFTs and the like. According to Forbes, 95% of NFTs are now worthless. And unless folks want to buy a token just so that like-minded individuals will pretend that they own a digital image, lots of people are most likely buying these images in the hope that the value will rise and it becomes an investment of some kind. But as that figure from Forbes has shown us, this is highly unlikely. So these guys can just make a simple animation, slap hundreds of different models on top of them, and sell them for around $20 to $40 a pop, according to their Discord server. All under the guise that this is how they'll be funding their upcoming Steam game. In full honesty, the game looks really cool, and if it's free, maybe I'd give it a shot. But as many other creators covering this topic have accurately mentioned, there are several other ways to crowdfund a project, and with the hype around the animations they've made, I'm sure fans would gladly contribute to a Kickstarter or a Patreon. But no, it has to be useless, expensive, easily duplicated gifts. Sure, people are buying them, but it doesn't feel like a supply meeting a demand. It feels more like taking advantage of folks who may not know better. The weirdest part of all of this is the very subtle thirst trap-esque treatment of Susie's Snack Time. She's clearly inspired by Baby from Sister Location, but where Baby is intentionally designed to be creepy, Susie is purposefully designed to look cute. And while I've made my feelings very clear on attraction to FNAF adjacent characters, it feels uncomfortably clickbaity and leaves a bad taste in my mouth. This situation is ongoing as of right now, so we'll see if the game really comes out in a decent state, or if it's simply an incentive to sell more nasty fart turds or whatever. But let's be honest, as long as enough people aren't susceptible to buying useless things, the fandom will quickly recover, or even not be affected by all this hogwash. The same, sadly, cannot be said for the rest of the topics in this video, including our next segment, the Fanverse Initiative. August 22nd, 2020. Smack dab in the center of one of the worst years in recent history, Scott Cawthon lays a blessing down upon the Five Nights at Freddy's Reddit. The Fazbear Fanverse Initiative, one of the last major things Scott did before he was bullied into retiring around a year later. The Fanverse Initiative was a collaboration between Scott and several talented and well-established fan game creators in the space, where Mr. Cawthon would personally invest in the creators and their future works, as well as giving them an official thumbs up. And in return, they would do what they do best: create games. Looking at the comments of the Reddit post, it's clear that this decision was released to great acclaim by the fans, and even with what we'll be talking about today, I personally think it was still a great idea in concept. But as we'll be exploring, the one major issue with independent creators on the internet, as we all know, they can be highly unpredictable.
3 lame studios, dude.
Dude, I got struck down by 3 lame studios. I got exposed for saying slurs when I don't do. You see, the Reddit post mentions 5 creators that are involved in the initiative. Emil with Five Nights at Candy's 4, Nixon with The Joy of Creation Ignited Collection, Kane with Pop Goes Evergreen, Jonachrome with One Night at Flumpty's 3, and Fiznam with Fnaf Plus, which, as of recording this video, has been cancelled. You see, Fiznam is a very straightforward, outspoken son of a gun. Initially, he created an improved remake of FNAF 2, which Scott had to take the game down, but when he saw the talent, he eventually involved Fiznam in the fanverse. FNAF Plus had been in production for around 3 years at the point of its cancellation, which was only a few days after the Security Breach Ruin DLC. This was no coincidence, as the inciting controversy was a direct result of Fiznam's response to this DLC. Now, before I move forward, I want to say this situation is only a few months old, and I'll be doing everything I deem necessary to make sure I speak on the controversy with the nuance and care required, as to not make light of recent events. Now, Fiznam decided to tweet his feelings about the, at the time, brand new DLC, simply stating, "Well, that was boring," which, while I don't necessarily agree with, is a reasonable point of view. All our opinions on media are just that: opinions, so even if most people don't agree, it's still a reasonable point of view overall. Regardless, some people did not agree with this. Most notably to this particular situation, a Twitter user that I will be keeping anonymous in this video, who jokingly replied, "Can we tweet this after FNAF Plus comes out? It's only fair." Which, to be quite honest, is kind of an ignorant call to action, but again, really not a big deal. In retaliation, people who seem to claim to be Fiznam's fans sent videos of suicide and gore to the user. Now, obviously Fiznam would immediately denounce any... Wait, what's this? Fiznam thought it would be silly to, instead of speaking out against this, just make a silly joke about how he wants to see the videos instead. Now, apparently people claim he jokingly asked his fans to send these suicide and gore videos to the original user. As far as I can tell, this is not accurate. Regardless, this was not how to handle this touchy topic. Fizz eventually realized this, but at that point it was too late. I personally love quote-unquote edgy or dark humor, so when a user is willing to make a joke that could be deemed controversial for the sake of a good-hearted laugh, I'm usually for it. But this obviously had no real thought behind it. This is the event that led to the cancellation of FNAF Plus. Now, as for Fiznam, he just made a dark joke in very poor taste, and after watching his response video on the topic, I understand his point of view, even if he was totally in the wrong. So I don't think he deserves to be deplatformed or anything. I just think there were natural consequences to his actions that he can then in turn learn from. So, all's well that ends well, right? Well, remember how I said FNAF Plus was the only game to get cancelled? Well, while that is true, Fiznam is not the only problematic fanverse member. Jonachrome, the creator of One Night at Flumpty's, is, to put it simply, in a much more controversial situation. One Night at Flumpty's 3 was Jonachrome's fanverse submission, which came out on October 31st, 2021. The game was well received, but only 8 days later, something absolutely awful was revealed about Jonachrome's behavior from the past half-decade. Before I go into why, I first want to say the victim, that I will be trying to keep anonymous, has asked that them and Jonachrome be left alone. So in my attempt to respect this wish, I want to say I will never incite or ask to incite action against anyone that I speak about. I may give passionate opinions or catalog events in the history of gaming communities, but I do not want to stir the pot in any way. Now, Jonachrome. This is going to be a difficult one to cover, but with the information available to me, I feel I can confidently talk on the issue. On November 8th, 2021, only a couple days after the release of One Night at Flumpty's 3, a twitlonger was uploaded, or however that works, in which Jonachrome was extensively exposed by an anonymous source, with several screenshots of evidence. The expose claimed that John, in 2016, when he was 21, began speaking with a minor who at the time was aged 13. With the direct intention of beginning a romantic relationship with them when they became of age. Now, these are career-ending accusations, but at first, they were just that. Accusations. Now, they came with plenty of evidence, so they were fairly damning. But if anyone didn't believe it initially, Jonah Chrome himself later tweeted a response, confirming the accusations to be true that day. I'm not going to read out the entire message, but to be quite frank, the very first sentence is wrong. The response starts with, "I'm not a child groomer." They go on to say that they did not manipulate, abuse, or exploit anyone, and you can tell he simply looked up the definition of grooming from nspcc.org and tried to directly apply this to his situation. But if you were to scroll down just a bit more on his Google search to look at the 7 stages of grooming, you could see that with the information provided by his own account of the situation, most of these actually do apply to him. Luckily, the victim ended things before they could go any further. Knowing the information we do now, and as we can see from the screenshot here, he directly says the plan is to marry her, and this screenshot was most likely taken before she was even of age. Later on, the victim also came out, actually in defense of Jonah Chrome, since he relentlessly apologized and was receiving therapy after she broke things off. And look, while it is great that nothing physical came of this, at the end of the day, John maintained a personal relationship with a 13-year-old with the express purpose of a romantic relationship with them when they turned 18. Given the context, I can confidently say this is predatory behavior. Regardless, the situation has already settled, and the victim appears to be safe, and that is ultimately what is important. As of right now, only one game has successfully released under the Fanverse initiative, and that was Jonah Chrome's One Night at Flumpty's 3. Once 5, the future of the Fanverse now relies on 3 creators. Luckily, things seem to be looking up from here. The 3 remaining releases look like they'll be well-produced, solid games. But you know what isn't a solid game? Our next topic of discussion, the highly disturbing tale of Dormitibus. Dormitibus was a poorly made Five Nights at Freddy's fan game released on February 25th, 2018. Although it received decent exposure at the time due to Markiplier featuring it in a Fnaf fan games video. Luckily, Mark was not exposed to some of the degeneracy therein. You see, there are many types of fan games, but I'll introduce you to 2 major kinds. Typically, a Fnaf fan game either creates its own universe, using the same gameplay or design styles as Scott Cawthon's official works, or it adds on to the existing universe with its own fan lore, which is exactly what Dormitibus did. I'm not going to go into detail as to what exactly Dormitibus did to change the lore, but there is one major detail that is vital to this story. You see, in Five Nights at Freddy's, most of the lore revolves around a certain William Afton. He's responsible for the deaths of all the children who go on to possess the animatronics. Anytime this part of the lore is displayed in the games, it is respectfully and tastefully done to a certain standard. And the lore places an emotional motive for William, while also maintaining his status as a villain. Dormitibus throws all these cohesive plot threads out the window and turns Mr. Afton into a pedophile murderer, who does what he does simply because he enjoys it. This really doesn't fit in the story at all, and is just gross and evil for the sake of, well, nothing really. In Dormitibus, Afton's lore can be discovered through the tapes you can collect in the game. Don't do this. The voice acting is, well...
I didn't really want to do this. I didn't want to start doing this again. But they just won't shut up about it. It's not my fault. I can control my physical mutations.
This is nothing if not demonic, but this is far from the crux of the issue in this fan game. In one of the tapes, fake Afton says the following.
Oh my god! This is most certainly beginning to be fun. There was this hot 15-year-old that was part of the kids' friends group. You know, it was fun. She screamed, but nobody heard her. It was so much fun.
He goes on in the tapes to describe in detail how he kills and rapes in different ways. I have no clue as to what drove the creator of this game to include this level of upsetting detail for seemingly no reason. Okay, that's not true. On November 12th, 2020, a previous friend of Blackout, the creator of Dormitibus, uploaded a video essentially exposing Blackout. And there are so many terrible things that they have been accused. I'm not sure I could cohesively cover everything in this video, but I'll put a list on screen here. But the worst of which was sexual conversations, as well as sent nudes with a 12-year-old. This creep not only engaged directly in grooming and pedophilia, but also tried to supplement his sick, twisted fantasies into his game as loose plot threads. Most of the folks I've spoken on in this video are bad, or at least could be considered bad, but I might not describe them all as parasites. But this guy, I can say with a very high degree of confidence, is a parasite to the Fnaf community. Not only engaging in these disgusting acts, but using their status in the fanbase as a creator to their advantage. This is a tragic story in our community. No nuance or light at the end of the tunnel, other than their eventual deplatforming. With such a sad story, there has to be a more uplifting tale, right? Right? Five Nights in Anime. If you're already a viewer of mine, you most likely already know how I feel about this series, but I barely scratched the surface of the degeneracy that lies within its fanbase, and I won't be doing that again. So, wait, who's that?
Yeah, whoa, it's Mrow, baby, we're so back, yeah, let's go! So, Five Nights in Anime, or Fnia as I'll be calling it in this video, is a trilogy of NSFW parody games made by a YouTuber called Mrow, who has a little over 900,000 subscribers as of recording. Starting his current channel in 2015 and uploading Fnia content that same year, he quickly grew in size, probably in part to him producing the Fnia fan games and uploading content surrounding them onto his channel. My biggest criticism I would have for Mrow is the fact that he, at least in my opinion, makes kids content while having suggestive videos, thumbnails, and titles. This is true for his old content and his new. Just recently, he started uploading content around the amazing digital circus, referencing Rule 34 in one thumbnail. This behavior and content style goes all the way back to 2015 when he started uploading to his current channel. But let's not get sidetracked, let's talk about the games. His first game released in 2014, his second in 2015, and a demo for the third in 2019. Around 2021 to 2022, the games would all be taken down, and Mrow would stop making content surrounding them around this time. They can still be found in archived links around the internet, but honestly, if you've never played them, you're not missing much, especially since there is an overview video about all three games on this channel already that you should all definitely watch if you have any interest in this topic. But regardless, if Five Nights in Anime died with these fan games back in 2019, we obviously wouldn't be here. So what exactly is the issue? Well, it's because the Fnia trilogy of video games are NSFW parodies of Five Nights at Freddy's. In all three games, the characters are all over-sexualized with exaggerated proportions, and at a game over screen, it's heavily implied that you're taken advantage of in a not-so-YouTube-friendly way. This wouldn't exactly be an issue for any other franchise, but Fnaf is very popular and has a massive child audience, and multiple people in the past have abused the fact that these are neighboring communities to prey on children. This person, specifically Zanik, who posts some bangers on Twitter, successfully preyed on a child, solicited nudes from a child, and made a Discord channel in his server for this said child to post nudes publicly for everyone to see, and was heavily encouraged to do so. And just because I want to make this perfectly set in stone, no confusion, Zanik did this to a minor. And the worst part is, this is just one example of hundreds that shows users in the Fnia community being degenerates. But if you need any more convincing, just go ahead and join any number of VR chat Fnia worlds. You'll be bombarded with sexualized avatars, worlds, and people acting very suspect. People often ban evade on VR chat and ignore the TOS when it comes to avatars, worlds, or just behavior overall. Now, this could be thanks to VR chat's absolutely terrible moderation, but these people, regardless of the moderation, are still walking around in over-sexualized avatars with no age barrier to who can just stumble upon them. VR chat being a game that is free and can run on basically anything, it's obvious you're going to encounter a wide range of people. This includes children. And personally, in this case, I think wearing NSFW skins in public with no barrier is definitely odd at best, and at worst, it's pretty dangerous. Another topic I wanted to talk about is the YouTube side of things. There is a massive, and I do mean massive, subsect of people making Fnia content on YouTube. Whether that's Xman723, who is encouraging children to make fetish content.
You guys have made your own videos, which that is fantastic. I love to watch your videos of Gmod FNAF. So anyways, I rarely never do shoutouts. I never do shoutouts. The only time I do shoutouts is whenever I feel like they completely deserve it. And he has proven himself. So go over there, subscribe to him.
Hey guys, welcome to my new OnlyFans page. So this is the first day of Roxanne OnlyFans loves you 69.
Can I give you a little kiss?
Freddy, I'm good. Can you just back up?
Baby boy, please give me a big old kiss.
Yeah, now we can cuddle real close. Oh, this feels so nice. We should have a baby.
Or people like LJ Fox Studio, who is making sexualized animations, thumbnails, and even advertising his content to the Minecraft side of YouTube. Minecraft also being another game with a massive child audience. It doesn't take a massive brain to acknowledge the fact that this person is obviously making fetish content on YouTube, almost reminiscent of the Elsagate videos from a couple years ago. This community in itself doesn't have to be bad or potentially harmful, but it's proven throughout the years that people who participate in it are generally not good actors. Five Nights at Freddy's, while not inherently a kids game, has adopted that audience. And for this reason, I think Fnaf is extremely dangerous and predatory. They don't age gate most parts of their community, they insert themselves proudly into parts of the Fnaf community, and at the end of the day, spreading NSFW content around on places like YouTube or VRChat or basically any form of media without age gating is dangerous. And I would argue this specific subsect of Fnaf would not be missed if it were just to be outright nuked. If you just want the TLDR here, Fnaf is bad, gross, weird, odd, fishy, sus, and probably way more synonyms I don't really care to look up right now. It's probably best just to move on.
This video was a bit of a doozy, to say the least. This community, like many others before and following it, has been through a lot. From the silly laughing stock of 3Lame and his catalog of cringe, all the way to the hidden degeneracy being thrust upon the most innocent of the fanbase on a regular basis. Now, if you're wondering what you, either as a casual enjoyer or even the most hardcore FNAF enthusiast, can do to help make sure this stuff doesn't happen, set your phone down and go outside, clean your room, go to the gym. Just make sure you're bringing a healthy mindset to the internet. Keep away from any terminally online behavior. Take this advice from the guy who uploads content about video game communities on YouTube. In all seriousness, every community is going to have its strange or even upsetting members. So if you're an onlooker to this community, please don't let these situations and circumstances taint your view of the community as a whole. Because overall, I'd say we're doing all right. Oh shoot, what about the movie? All done, Michael, if you're editing this, thank you. Mwah. Now, I'm not even gonna pretend I know anything about crypto or non-fungible tokens, but all I know is that on September 11th,